being a business owner, you go from mopping the men's loos on one day because there's been a blockage in the toilet to being nominated for Finance Director of the Year awards. I literally handed my notice in and then I found out I was pregnant.
Obviously, you're sort of running the business here, but at the same time, you're also a practicing accountant.
Still young. They have day release, so they do one day a week.
Sounds a bit... that's an interesting turn of phrase.
You have to give and take because you can't do everything. Even if people think, oh my gosh, she has everything sorted, you just think, no, you just do. They're alive. That's my premise of the kids are alive.
Yeah,
it's
good.
Okay. Oh, isn't it? Don't you do? Isn't it that? Isn't it something like that?
You do a proper pro,
seen,
right?
No, I've seen like the radio presenters. Don't they do? No, it's on the King's Speech, isn't it?
Oh, is it? I don't know.
The guy that announces on the King's Speech, he does that, and he does these warming up exercises for his throat. me. Yeah, it is. That's what I just need to block out of my head. I think just be follow. Yeah, right. Do we not have a snap board? No, you not do.
You're such a pro at this. Like
Hey,
I've never done one of these before. This is the first time. It's so funny. You're like, I've no idea what I'm talking about.
Oh no, I'm just talking.
Do you not keep your chin this far away from the mic? And then before we start, do you not have to do a snap board?
Yeah, I'm just thinking again about Drive to Survive and like Daniel Ricciardo drawing like on the thing and stuff.
Hello everybody, welcome back to our second episode of Uncommon Sense. We got through the pilot session last week and the directors here have given us the go-ahead for the full series, which is great news.
Woo!
I'm really pleased to say that today we're joined by Heather Cheetham, who is one of the directors at The Uncommon Practice. Hi. Thanks for coming on. A bit like Steve, you didn't have much choice.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's great to have you. Thanks so much for joining us. What I'd like to cover a whole load of things today. Heather is the director, said at The Uncommon Practice, has been working in accountancy for 15 years.
Yes, yeah.
An interesting entry into accountancy and into industry I'd like to talk about a tiny bit. Mm-hmm. You're also just been nominated Young Finance Director of the Year.
Still young.
Which is great. At the Finance Awards Wales, so that's brilliant. I'd like to get an understanding a bit about how you are as a leader. Obviously, you're if you don't mind me saying, fairly young female director, so I'd be really interested to get your views on that. And then also talk a bit more about sort of what you think makes the Uncommon Practice uncommon. Yeah. I know we talked about that with Steve, but I'd love to get your views on that. Mm-hmm. So let's get into it. So you went into accounting straight from school, which is an interesting route. And I know that some people might be interested because I think a lot more people are going to be doing that now.
Yeah.
You know, with university and not going to university. Mm-hmm. So I'm just interested to get your view on that, why you made that decision. Was it the right thing to do? And then if you could tell us a bit more about your career, that would be good. Yeah.
So, A-levels, 2006.
Mm-hmm.
My parents were like a lot of other parents, you must go to university, you must do that. And, you know, I was sort of set on wanting to be a vet at one point, which obviously very different to this. I decided to have a gap year and just thought, you know what, I don't want to rush this. It's even back then, it was a lot of money to go to university and all the rest of it. But my dad was like, you must do something. But, you know, so basically it was that my parents and I have a bit of a joke about this still, is that I basically went down a list of jobs that you could do that where you could get a professional qualification, but also maintain a reasonably good lifestyle, you know, ultimately. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I'm nearly an acupuncturist, but got to accountancy and I thought, actually, you know, you can do an apprenticeship, you can get funded to do it. And, you know, and my parents were happy to sort of take me down this route. So, but obviously very different to what I thought I was going to do at school, and just sort of went from there really. So I had a gap year, but my mum said, no, you must get a job before you leave because I want you to come back. So did that. Went to work for a firm in Chester, who had a Northwest base. Mm-hmm. So and I trained, I did my AAT and then my chartered accountancy qualifications from there. They supported me through all of that, and really, really good grounding for a qualification experience in practice. So again, that is starting off from incomplete records from bookkeeping all the way through to doing £100 million turnover business audits by the time I'd left there. So I was there for 13 and a half years, made my way all the way to associate, which is one below partner. And then, yes, a couple of years ago, one of the other directors here, we came out of that firm together and set up the Uncommon Accountants, which is obviously part of the Uncommon practice. And yeah, that's the story of where I've got to from.
So does the Uncommon practice have people doing a similar route then, coming straight out of school?
Yes, yeah. We've currently got 3 students who are doing their AAT, and they go to the local college. I'd say that we're fully support that. They have day release, so they do one day a week.
Sounds a bit, I don't know, that's an interesting turn of phrase. So we let them out for one day, from the prison of work to go. Right, interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So we support that. Yeah. So yeah, we work with students, and I say their college work is supported by their work in the office.
Great.
So, yeah.
Oh, great. So this is interesting. So you're now a director. So you're obviously, as I've said, big up the Finance Director of the Year nomination. Hopefully you're going to win. I'm sure you will. But I'm interested to get your view, because you're sort of running the business here, but at the same time you're also a practicing accountant.
Yeah.
So, which is interesting. I'm not sure. Usually in a accounting firm, you've got the practicing accountants who are doing the client work, and then there's other people that run the business. Is that right?
Sure, yeah.
So how have you found that?
Yeah. So as I say, being a business owner, you go from mopping the men's loos on one day because there's been a blockage in the toilet to sort of being nominated for Finance Director of the Year awards. So it's really varied sort of from that side of things. And when I'd found out that I'd been nominated, I felt a bit sort of, it didn't quite feel like it fit as the right category, to be honest, when you looked at the other categories, because you kind of go, well, I am a practicing accountant in a firm, but actually, I do have the hat of FD as well, like you say. So I kind of feel that gives me the experience to be able to help businesses with running a business, because I'm in that position myself, a new business. We've only been going a couple of years. So like I say, doing everything from all the sort of things of running any business that every business have to deal with, to the fact that it is an accounting practice and there's other things I have to think about there as well as helping all our clients as well. It's it's really varied, really varied.
Yeah, it's sort of like a startup mentality, if you like, I suppose, in that sense that everybody just has to pitch in, and I'm sure a lot of people will recognise that.
Yeah.
You've just got to
have to do what needs to be done.
Crack on and get on with what needs to be done. I know that you took all the mugs home the other day to wash them up, and it's just like no choice. Someone's got to do it. Interesting. So, talking about being a leader then at the Uncommon practice, I think this would be interesting to quite a few people, because, as I said, you're younger. Don't mind me saying that.
Thanks.
A young female director, and I know you've got a family life with children at home. I'd love to get your perspective on how you found going from that role you had before into this leadership role. How have you found it? What have been the challenges? If you could just talk to us a bit more about that, would be great. Yeah,
so obviously before I was purely a practicing accountant. Like obviously I managed a bigger team because it was a bigger firm, but it was literally, that's work. And then at home back then, I didn't have any children. So that was kind of a, switch. Although obviously you do work long hours, but it's kind of life and work. And then we've gone from, I literally handed my notice in, and then I found out I was pregnant, and then that was just chaos.
Good timing.
But it's fine. Ultimately, my secret is outsourcing. So we outsource here. We do a lot of outsourcing here, but I outsource at home. Is my house clean all the time? No, probably not. But, cleaner, if it's got to be done. Or like support from family. I've got massive support from family. Right. So, and my husband is, I should give him a shout out really. Yeah, I'm sure he sat there at home listening to this with our other 3 listeners thinking, she's not giving me a mention yet. How about me? But I do feel that traditional sort of husband and wife demographic, we absolutely do not have that, and I think he does respect that, and he does appreciate that my career is quite important to me as well as family, and he does as well. He has quite a big job as well, so we do just have to give and take, and I feel like we do have quite a good balance. But ultimately you have to give and take because you can't do everything. Even if people think, oh my gosh, she has everything sorted, you just think, no.
No.
You just do. They're alive. That's my premise of the kids are alive.
Yeah,
it's
good.
okay.
So in terms of leading at the Uncommon practice then with the guys here, and I'm interested to get your experience of having taken that role on. How have you found it?
Yeah, it's the sort of day-to-day managing of people has been actually quite similar to what I did in my previous role, but actually you go, gosh, it's my head over the door now. And although I did have quite a lot of autonomy where I used to work, it was still ultimately it's someone else's business and I couldn't just make every decision. Whereas now you go, oh, actually, it is my business. But ultimately, that does have positives because you can just make decisions because at the end of the day, you've got to make decisions, otherwise things never get done. I heard that this is a really random off-topic thing, but everyone knows Pitbull, don't they? He's got this. He does like lots of random like sayings, and he says, "You don't make mistakes; they're mistakes." So it's like you've got to make opportunities out of your mistakes. Like you don't, I can't do the Pitbull accent, but it's like that's something recently where he's like, you don't. Did I
say it again? So
you don't make mistakes. They're must-takes.
Oh, good.
Sorry, did I not say that right first time?
I think you did. That's good. No,
so
I
it's
like that a lot.
Learning from mistakes. Basically learning from mistakes, really. Yeah. But I just like the way Pitbull says it.
So when you say you're learning from mistakes, this might be a bit.
It's a bit where I can edit in. You have to edit in.
We can edit this in. That's fine. I was going to ask you then. Okay, so this depends how honest you want to be. In terms of mistakes, then. Are you willing to share any that you think you've made?
Oh, gosh.
You think off the top of your head? Is there anything that you would do differently? How about that, rather than mistakes?
Do you know what? Top of my head, no, because I feel that I don't hold on to stuff. I probably have, don't get me wrong, I've probably made mistakes, but top of my head, I'm just trying to think now. Do you know what? No.
Okay.
Maybe come back to me. I'll have a think about it because, like I say, I kind of go, right, oh yeah, I probably have made lots of mistakes, but I just go, right, okay, let's just correct it and move on. Maybe I'm just trying to think. That's really bad, isn't it? I can't even think of something.
I don't think it's bad. I think that's interesting. I like what you're saying about you've got to just get stuck in and get on with it.
I think communication is a big thing. I guess I'm just thinking now, and I guess sometimes email communication can be interpreted in so many different ways, and is what I guess that's one thing is that I've sent an email to someone in meaning it in completely innocent or just by the way, can we just blah blah blah, and they've taken it in such a negative way and been upset with me, say for example, or thought, oh my gosh, she's upset, she's annoyed with me, and I was like, oh my god, that's not how I meant it. And if I'd have just gone and just had a conversation and explained myself in person or on the phone even, that might have been better.
Well, it's that old thing about when you're doing the signature at the bottom and you never know what to put at the bottom,
regards.
do you? Well, regards is the most passive-aggressive thing that you can put at the bottom of an email. So it's like, is it kind regards? Do I know them well enough to say all the best? Yeah. Probably not. Yeah. Can I say cheers? Maybe to someone I know.
I had a client that used to say warm wishes, and that made me go.
Yeah. But then if someone only puts regards,
God, they're think, really annoyed. Yeah.
Now I'm in trouble. I've upset this person. But also, if you're frustrated with someone else, you just say regards.
Yeah.
No, but you're right. No, that's an interesting one about email communication, because I think people can.
I'm sure. Don't get me wrong. I've probably made a lot of mistakes.
But so what you're saying is better to just go and speak to someone, is what you're saying?
I think so. Because people's interpretations of sitting in a meeting, someone's interpretation of a conversation can sometimes be completely not what you taken from the same conversation. You're in the same room. It can be crazy sometimes. But
so in terms of your leadership, you're leading a company, as I said, slightly younger person. You'll be working in a world where there are people who are older, who've been working in the industry a lot longer. You're working with business owners who've been in the industry a long time. How have you found that, and how have you found being, taking that role on, but having to work with people who have been in, say, the business longer or in businesses longer? How have you found that? Yeah.
I think the buzzword of imposter syndrome is that, the sort of that overarching feeling I have.
Did you feel like that?
To an extent, I feel comfortable where I am, but there have been certain situations where I've felt, oh gosh, I feel like I shouldn't be sat around this table, or I don't feel like I can bring something to this or whatever. But I would say that an example I had was when I did have a little bit of time off when I had my daughter, and a big job that I knew was looming and waiting for me when I came back was helping sort of with another business that we work with from an operational side of things, and going into their office, establishing the dynamics, all the politics, and trying to help it run more efficiently and operate efficiently. And I kind of went into that going, I've got my own business here, but it's a clean slate. It's a handful of people really when we started, and it's easy to sort of make decisions and change things because we could be flexible. Whereas where I was working was a very traditional business. They've always, the amount of times I was told, but this is always how we've done it, I'd be a millionaire. But so going into that environment and going, oh my gosh, I've only ever worked in another firm, one other place. Right. So in my head I had voices going, you only know one way, other way of doing it. So why do you think you can come in here and tell these people what to do? And I just thought, no, that's just, yes, that is something I need to be mindful of, because there are so many ways of doing things, but you ultimately have to break down the situation that you're in and go, what is right for this business, and question everything, because that answer of this is just always how we've been told to do it is not an answer. It's absolutely not the answer. So going back to your question about when I felt like I was sort of out of my depth, or a bit of imposter syndrome, that was sort of a real life example I've had from the last couple of years. And then obviously among my fellow directors at the Uncommon practice, although don't get me wrong, none of them make me feel like I shouldn't be here. And they have been my biggest advocates from a supporting point of view and helping with advice. And obviously I always consult them on if I've got issues or what should I do about certain things. And they've been real supporters of me, which I really appreciate. But I do sometimes just go, oh gosh, I am still young, and but I think you should always think like that, irrelevant of your age. And I know Steve's talked about listening and always taking things in and not just thinking your way is the only way, because that can obviously lead you down a path of business destruction. Yeah. How have you overcome? I mean, I'm thinking people listening to this will be thinking, that's really great and honest, and I appreciate you sharing that with us. I think what I'm interested to know then is, as someone in your position, how do you overcome that imposter syndrome? Is there anything that you've done? Is there anything you tell yourself? Just interested to understand that a bit more. I think it's the keep calm and carry on,
right?
And just be. And again, I like my sort of phrases, the whole fake it till you make it, to an extent. Like you need to be able to know when you're out of your depth and to ask for help, because you should never feel like you're on your own. Even if you're starting a business just on your own, there's support out there in any shape or form, isn't it? Either in your trusted advisor, the Uncommon practice, or your friend or your parents, or whatever, from whatever range, any sort of, depending on what kind of business you're in. Sorry, I've just gone off. I completely have a mind blank.
No, that's great. No, because you're saying fake it till you make it.
Oh, yeah. So to an extent, like I say, but it is that thing of being, I think, keeping the honesty in a situation and going, right, okay, I am here to help. Tell me what your problems are, or what are the issues that this business are facing. But ultimately, I'm not going to have all the answers straight away, and I'll come back to you, or I think you should try this, this and this. And just talking with people and communicating, because a lot of people, change is a big thing that people don't like, irrelevant of what cycle or life part of the cycle of a business they're in, and they're obviously concerned about what you're doing to come in and try and change things. So I think that's a big thing of communicating that to an extent, and just being confident, believing in yourself, and saying, no, I do deserve to be here. Yes. Right? Yeah. To an extent, but also it's keeping that balance, isn't it? Of saying, you don't know everything, but a bit of humility. Yeah. Great. Yeah. So people listening to this are going to be thinking, I can't believe they're going to talk about this. This is literally the most boring topic on the switch off.
This is the most boring topic in the world, but I know it's something that you are passionate about because you talk to me about it all the time, which is bookkeeping, right? So people our 3 listeners are now down to 2, and that's okay. Thanks for staying with us, Mum. I'm interested to know then you're saying bookkeeping is really important. And I know that as the Uncommon Accountants, we push it a lot, this idea of real-time bookkeeping. Could you give us a bit more of an overview about what it means, the importance of bookkeeping? That would be great.
So no matter what you are, whether you're a sole trader, partnership, all the way up to a massive limited company, the government still want your money. You still got to pay tax to an extent, haven't you? And you've still got to do your reporting. And with everything, with making tax digital, it's becoming more digitised, more frequent. Their plans over the next sort of 4 or 5 years, although they do keep putting it back, but they'll get there eventually. That making tax digital for VAT is already a thing where you have to record it digitally, obviously, and the fact that God, I've just lost my train of thought again.
That's okay.
Sorry.
It's bookkeeping. It sent you to sleep already. You just thought, I can't talk about this.
So there's sort of two elements to it. The fact that you have to do it from a compliance point of view, but also to be able to really, truly run your business, having real-time bookkeeping can be such a massive asset. And it's not just going, oh, well, I can look at my bank statements and I've got 10 grand in the bank or whatever, because you don't know actually how much liability you've got, as in what are the invoices you've got to pay, or who owes you money, just looking at what's in the bank. So doing your real-time bookkeeping is a really important element of being able to have that at your fingertips. Right. And, software and AI these days make it so much easier to be able to do real-time bookkeeping. So that's, So
do you think then in the smaller businesses that we work with, that isn't something that's being done very well at the moment? Or is it just that bookkeeping isn't given the status that it deserves, maybe?
I think to an extent, yes. That, people don't put enough onus on it that, to get to, even if you're just concentrating on, I've got to do the compliance side of things, giving your accountant a bag of records, in a carrier bag the month before your deadlines, that's just not conducive to anyone. It's historical. It should have been done months ago. And ultimately, you're not having enough warning to go, right, actually, if you've got tax to pay, you're not having any warning to plan your cash flow from actually, I've got to pay out some tax in a few weeks sort of thing. And trust me, accountants don't really like having to sift through bags of receipts. No. So,
but I think it's also interesting you're saying that about cash flow forecasting, because that's something else that we've talked a lot about here. And I think a lot of what surprised me and perhaps surprised you is the number of smaller businesses that have either no cash flow forecast at all, or have a very limited
back of
cash
fag
flow
packet type.
Back of fag packet, that's right. Yeah. So is there, when we think about cash flow forecasting, is that something that you think is important? How can businesses do it better? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, to some extent, not to do myself out of a job, but some businesses, the owner to begin with, they can mentally they roughly know what their ins and outs each month are. But, if you're going to a financer for a loan, they can't extract that from your head. You still need to be able to prove to them that you do know what you're talking about. Yeah. So I think it is important to get into the habit of being able to document everything, and like I say, we can support with that, can't we? And to help grow the business if you are wanting to sort of aim to be somewhere. Again, Steve's analogy of you don't get in a car without knowing where you're wanting to drive is a really one that's really stuck with me from a point of view of actually, if you don't know where your business wants to go, how can you get there?
How can you make decent decisions? Basically, isn't it? How can you make the right decisions if you don't know? What your numbers look like, or what your plans are, what your liabilities are in the future. I think for me, having looked into cash flow forecasting a bit since I've been working here, that's the key thing for me, is thinking about, if you're a business, you need to put contingencies in place for different scenarios. How can you do that if you haven't sort of planned it out or scoped it out and seen what's coming up? No, that's interesting. I think so. We've spoke a bit about bookkeeping. We spoke a bit about cash flow forecasting. So our two listeners are now down to one. My mum switched off probably as we got to cash flow forecasting. So now we're down to Gaz. He's the only person who's stuck with us all the way through. Well done, Gaz. Heathers, please. Well done. I'd like to talk a bit about the uncommon practice then. So we heard from Steve last week in our sort of first episode about what he thinks makes the uncommon practice uncommon. Obviously, we've got all of this behind us. So it stands out, the brand's bold, it's different, but other than just the logo and the branding, which is different and uncommon. I'm said it before and I'll say it again, I don't want the uncommon practice, the uncommon bit to just be a gimmick, right? So from your perspective, what does make the uncommon practice uncommon?
Yeah, like you say, it's hard to sex up bookkeeping, isn't it, to an extent? But
we tried today, though, didn't we?
We're trying our best. And like the compliance side of things, you do kind of go, that has to be done. But we do pride ourselves on doing it in a really swift and efficient way. And the way, as I say, the practices here, because we've been able to start from scratch, we're adopting software and doing everything electronically. We pride ourselves on being pretty much paperless here, to try and help with the sustainability side of things as well. But from my point of view, from an ops, because that's operations is really my side, it's about the ethos of our staff as well as the interaction with our clients, and to make sure that our staff are happy and they understand the Uncommon brand as well, which I guess you're sort of still asking, well, what is that? But it's that perception of accountants, it's a bit boring, but you come to work, or you just come to work to work, which is obviously, we want people to be efficient and we want to get the best out of everybody. But we also, like I say, you spend so much of your life at work, don't you? The hours you do spend, that we want it to be a bit of fun. We are a bit of a family and we do care about each other, and that we're all here for the main goal of, improving the business, but also that everyone's happy in their work and they feel that they're achieving their goals personally. Like I say, we have our trainees, we want them to grow and to be able to be part of their journey as being an accountant.
I think that's great. I think that's really interesting because from my perspective on the marketing side of the company, we often think about the brand as something that is, to relate to our clients. So we want, our clients to like, potential clients to like it. We want our existing clients to like it. They want to relate to it. Say, yeah, that's my accountant or that's my consultant. But what's interesting, what you're saying, and I absolutely love this, and I think it's right, is that your brand and your culture also needs to reflect the type of employees that you want to employ.
Absolutely.
The culture that you've got in the business, the team. I know we had someone join us recently who said, this just felt like the type of company I wanted to come and join. That must make you pleased from the ops side. Yeah,
absolutely. And we're recruiting at the minute, so
We've only got one listener left, though. That's the problem.
It's that to me is really important.
Okay.
I really do think it is, because happy staff make happy workers and efficient workers. And I don't want people coming to work and not looking forward to coming to work. It's not Absolutely. How it should be. Like I say, life's too short, isn't it? Like, we're here to do what we want to do, to work, to live, don't we?
Yeah, I know that Steve talked about last week when I asked him about what his sort of uncommon sense was that he wanted to share. That was one of the things he was saying was have fun, because we spend so much time at work that, okay, it doesn't mean don't take things seriously,
no.
But I do think you can take things too seriously, can't
absolutely.
you? And like you say, we spend hours and hours at work every day. So if it's not something that you're enjoying, then your turnover is going to be
definitely
quick, and you're not, people aren't going to stay loyalty. That's great. So I suppose the final thing I want to ask you, this has been really interesting, great conversation. I'd really like to ask you about, so every week we are going to ask our guests what sort of uncommon sense they would share with other business owners or leaders or people that are listening. And when I say uncommon sense, I mean something that's from your experience, something that you probably wouldn't read in a textbook, or something if you went to ChatGPT and typed in, give me some business mantra or something, that it would come out with. I'm really interested to know what your uncommon sense would be.
Oh gosh, right.
Put you on the spot here, Heather.
I think that thing of, with being a young leader as well, it is that thing of, again, the cliche of the phrases, but the leadership is action, not age. So that thing of saying, it's difficult to go in somewhere where it's established and there's people of all ages and they see you come in and they sort of go, who is this person? I mean, they're told your title, they're told what you're here to do, but if you don't actually act on what you say you're doing, that respect doesn't get built up, does it? So I think it really is about being able to prove yourself and being confident enough in yourself to say, I can do this and this is what I'm going to do. Like I say, setting out your plans from day one is a really important thing that I've learned from the last couple of years.
Yeah, I love that. So leadership is something that you do rather than a title, is that sort of what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And it's that thing of it's that conscious thing that I still even go now, that I go, gosh, I am actually one of the main leaders here, especially in the accounting side of things. And I go, oh God, actually, yeah, I am the boss. Everyone does look at me on a day-to-day basis a lot of the time, because obviously Marlon's not in the office that much, is he? So, and I just go, God, actually, yeah, I am here. I am the leader. God, and then that's the imposter syndrome coming out again, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think from my perspective, do you know what, Heather? So I've known Heather for quite some time. We worked together years and years ago, didn't we?
Yeah.
And I remember when I don't think you were fresh out of school, but it wasn't too long ago after that. But it's great to see you where you are now.
Yeah,
I've got to say, you I know you might think that you've got some sort of imposter syndrome, but you absolutely deserve to be where you are. And I think some of the stuff you've shared today will be really useful to, younger leaders who are out there thinking, how do I do this? But I really appreciate your honesty.
Thanks
for joining us on Uncommon Sense.
Thank you very much, John. It's been a pleasure.